So once again, just, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Manny Leon with the Office of Early Academic Outreach, MESA Assistant Director, and we want to welcome you to our Raytheon STEM panel. It's going to be an exciting day. A few folks from one of our longest and biggest MESA supporters in Arizona, Raytheon. And we're excited to have them share today. So as we get started, I'll go ahead and introduce Shalane Simmons and Alonso Garcia from Raytheon, who will tell us a little bit about their company.
Thank you, Manny. This is Shalane Simmons. I'm going to give just a brief overview of kind of what I do in my role and how Raytheon supports the community and many community partners like MESA. And then I'm going to turn it over to Alonso and ask him to talk just a little bit about how Raytheon really gets involved with MESA in supporting the students with our mentors and volunteers, and why it's so important for us to stay connected with you all. So those of you who may not know Raytheon, we are a global technology company. Our corporate office, our main company name is Raytheon Technologies, and Raytheon Technologies is comprised of 4 major business units. And the business unit that is here in Tucson, Arizona is called Raytheon Missiles Defense, and that's where I work. That's where my colleagues who you're going to hear from today work. And as part of not only being a high-tech company and looking for the next greatest talent, which is many of you all hopefully, we believe that it's very important to give back to the communities where we live and work. And so anywhere where there's a Raytheon facility, we invest in the community, and that we do that in a variety of ways. We do that with grants and donations through financial contributions, and we also do that with our volunteers and being engaged in opportunities like MESA, supporting students on challenges and competitions and resume writing and math tutoring, a variety of ways that we give back to our community. And as a focus, Raytheon has 3 major focus areas when it comes to our outreach, and that's STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. I think we all know that. STEM education, because we want to develop our own talent pipeline in our own backyard. So we want you all to pursue a STEM degree and maybe come work for us one day, or go work for another tech company where you can make a really great career in life with your STEM degree. The second area that we focus on is supporting military families and veterans. The products that we make go to the military branches, and so we want to make sure that we're supporting them with the products when they are deployed, but also when they are coming back to civilian life. So we do a lot of work with veterans. And the third one is around food insecurity, and we have definitely seen a lot of that this past year with the pandemic, and we want to make sure that some of those basic needs of the folks in our communities are taken care of. So that's just a little bit about our outreach. Raytheon Missiles and Defense has about 30,000 employees globally. We have about half of those here in Tucson, Arizona. So a big portion of our engineers and our physicists and our rocket scientists, literally, and our finance team and our quality, they all work here in Tucson and also around the globe. So that's just a little bit about Raytheon. I know Manny's going to share a link at the end of the session where you can go and learn more about us. But now I'm going to turn it over to Alonso. And Alonso, if you could share, our relationship with MESA.
Absolutely, my pleasure to do that. Good afternoon to all students that signed on. I hope everyone can hear me, but if I need to speak up, please don't hesitate. Someone to flag me down. But absolutely my pleasure to speak a little bit about our special relationship with the MESA program here in the state of Arizona. It's one that's touched me personally as a former MESA student at Flowing Wells High School back many, many years. I'm not going to say how many years because I'm still very young, so it's not a big number in terms of years now, but it's a while for sure. But I have the honor of speaking to this special relationship because for 20 plus years now, Raytheon has been really standing side by side with the MESA program, even when it had a different name in those early years, with both investment in terms of financial support, but also in terms of volunteers. And even I remember as a high school student at Flowing Wells having interactions with former Raytheon engineers back then in a mentoring capacity. So certainly it's touched me in a personal way, and I think a lot of the employees who volunteer at Raytheon, it's also touched them in a personal way, in terms of them being also former MESA alum here locally or abroad, since MESA is a national program. But it's also just on a personal basis in terms of serving as mentors and volunteers. They get to see the fruits of their labor in the students that are developing with their help, and how they become success stories, middle school into high school, and earning scholarships to colleges, and becoming engineers or just STEM professionals themselves. And so a lot of our volunteers just take a deep sense of accomplishment and gratification in being able to work with you all, the students, and helping you realize your dreams of hopefully one day becoming a professional. So just really quickly, in terms of how we partner here locally, like I spoke about the financial assistance, but also our engineers, our volunteers serve as adopted school engineers right there in the trenches at the local schools, where we're able to embed engineers with the local MESA programs. And some of you have likely even worked with Raytheon Engineers, serving as adopted school engineers there at your local schools. And that's really where we get to help our local teachers who are MESA advisors apply the real world know-how to the unique MESA projects that you get to work on, to really exercise those engineering design and problem solving skill sets. And that opportunity is very popular, so much so that just this last year, we were able to hit 90% coverage of all Southern Arizona local schools that are participating in MESA. We were able to embed a Raytheon engineer in 90% of those schools, and something that we hope to continue this next year with over 40 adopted school engineers serving in that program alone. You'll see us as judges in the competitions, where we're absolutely the largest volunteer base that from industry that comes out to the regional and MESA Day events. And then you'll also see our volunteers serve as panelists, such as today with our 3 panelists who have been so gracious enough to give us part of their afternoon to present a little bit about their careers and hopefully motivate y'all to pursue a similar track as they have. Our volunteers today, and this is where I'm going to end up today, is introducing our speakers, our panelists. Very talented individuals. We have 3 today from our Raytheon volunteer community. Raytheon, by far, with the thousands of engineers who are here in Tucson, by far a good portion of them come from elsewhere. Just because it's a very competitive type of business, and we need talent. We need so much of it, so we have to recruit, obviously, outside of state. But we're absolutely committed to growing local talent, and as a testament to that, all 3 of our panelists are local to Tucson and are standout engineers at Raytheon. One hailing from Challenger Middle School and San Miguel, a high school standout systems engineer. Another from Chaparral and Sunnyside High School, who's a football player and also played in mariachi, a local mariachi there at Sunnyside. Again, another standout test systems project engineer now. And then another mechanical engineer who was a competitive swimmer here locally and graduated from Sabino High School and is now a very brilliant and well-recognized thermal analyst there at Raytheon. So we got some real talent for you, and hopefully you'll find their stories to be very inspiring. So with that, I'll turn it over to Manny or Anton, our first speaker. Manny, did you want to say a few words before Anton, or?
No, I think you did great, and I think yeah, we can turn it over to Anton.
Thank you.
Hello. I apologize if you see me glancing to the left very often. I have a 1-year-old who's a climber, and I'm just trying to keep an eye on her. Like it was mentioned, I'm a homegrown from here in Tucson, Arizona. Grew up on the south side. My first interaction with MESA was in 6th grade at Chaparral Middle School, and at that time it was MESA/Apex. And I continued my involvement with MESA in high school, and I played football there at Sunnyside and participated in a mariachi called Los Changuitos Feos, where I met my future wife. Graduated from Sunnyside, went straight to the U of A, and I had an opportunity to stay involved with MESA and be a student mentor at Doolin and Mansfield middle schools. I also became involved in a organization called SHIP. It's a Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and through them, I was able to get internships with National Science Foundation, spent a summer in DC, and after that, I got an internship with Raytheon. That's how I kind of got my foot in the door. Never really left Raytheon after that. Eventually graduated with the Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. And since then, I've been working there for 15 years, 10 years as a project test engineer, and the last 5 years as a test systems engineer with M9X. And on and off, I've been still trying to volunteer with MESA, either as an adopted school engineer or a judge, wherever I can. Right now, I'm married with 2 little girls who have taken up a little bit more of my time, and I don't play anymore, but I have 2 nieces who are very much involved with mariachi, and so we spend a lot of time watching them now. And hopefully someday this one will follow in their footsteps. That's pretty much my my journey through STEM and engineering.
Anton, can you tell us just a little bit about what does a systems test engineer do? What do you do in your day-to-day job?
So we support both production and development. Production obviously needs to test their missiles that they're building up day in, day out to send out to the warfighter, and they need test equipment to do that. So anytime they have new needs or they've discovered a problem and they need design fix, that's where our organization steps in. On the side, you have teams that are developing upgrades missiles, and they also need test equipment. So we work hand in hand with the tools that they need to ensure that the design they're coming up with is going to work in the field and is going to be able to provide solutions to them as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So our next presenter will be Caitlin. Caitlin Wright.
All right. Awesome. All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, so my name's Caitlin Wright. I also grew up in Tucson. I went to middle school at McGee Middle School and then high school at Sabino, so on the northeast side. And growing up, I was a competitive swimmer, and I did end up swimming in college at NAU as well. I enjoy just kind of house projects, so I have a picture of me in front of my house right there on top. On the weekends, I run, I hike, I read, spend time with family and friends. And it was really senior year of high school. I took an engineering course, and I know I just really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed physics and math, so just kind of made sense. And I decided to go to NAU. I got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I graduated from NAU in 2015. Shortly after that, I just hired on at Raytheon in Tucson, and about a year into working, I decided I wanted to go back for a master's. So I applied to the University of Arizona, and I got into a master's program there. So I got a master's in mechanical engineering with an emphasis in thermal sciences, and I completed that while working at Raytheon, which was really great. They helped me with tuition, which worked out really well. And then that's about the time where I decided I actually hired on in a design group, and I decided that wasn't quite for me. So as I was working on my master's, I transferred into thermal analysis and tests. So that's currently where I'm placed right now at Raytheon. Yeah, and I really enjoy it. I mostly support development programs, and I do a lot of heat transfer analysis. So it's a lot of physics, a lot of math. Um, and yeah, so I guess going through the pictures on the bottom left, that's a picture of me at Yosemite in California. So I did a backpacking trip there, and it was really beautiful. And then the bottom right is a picture of the pool at NAU. So that was one of my second homes during college, is that pool. Spent a lot of time there. Um, yeah, and that's about it.
So Caitlin, question for you. I am not an engineer student, and a lot of engineering students, whether at high school or college, have said, sometimes it's a lot of work to get an engineering degree, and it's worth the payoff. Can you talk a little bit about how you also swam for college competitively and got a degree in engineering?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it was all about my schedule. I knew I could do both things. I wanted to swim. I wanted to do my degree in 4 years, and those were both really important to me. So it was really about, figuring out my class schedule. Like if I had a 2-hour break in the day and I was on South Campus, I would go to the library there and study. And, certain days, maybe I had a math homework due every Thursday. So I knew Wednesday night I would have to stay up late, and I just kind of planned for that. And I knew I had practices at certain times. So, no, my my planner was very detailed. I just it's all about just sitting down and figuring out how you can work your time, because yeah, it's totally manageable. It's tough, but yeah, I think that's schedule is key.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. And then
Yeah.
our next speaker, before we head into our question and answer session, is Naileth Ramirez. Naileth?
Yes, hello. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. My name is Nailed Ramirez. I was born and raised here in Tucson, Arizona. I attended Challenger Middle School. That's when I joined MESA. As you can see, there's a picture of our MESA group back in 8th grade. It was when I first started getting interested in STEM and realizing that engineering could be a potential career. Moving along, I attended San Miguel High School. So my middle school and my high school were just along Valencia and Nogales Highway, super close to Raytheon. I had always seen it, but I never knew what Raytheon was nor what they did until really MESA, when we were able to attend to do tours, which was really fun at that point, because they would select a certain students, and then sometimes they would select me, and it was just really cool to go to Raytheon and kind of see the entire campus of where the engineers worked. So after graduating in 2016 from San Miguel High School, I applied to a lot of universities. Actually, I at first I was a little hesitant of coming to the U of A. I had applied to like 38, and I think I got accepted to like 33 or something like that. But then I decided to stay here. I kind of had a different plan in mind for what I wanted my university years to be like. So I applied to a BS in chemistry in the College of Science. Soon realized that it wasn't for me, didn't want to do that. So I switched to engineering. I knew it would be a little bit challenging, but I wanted to take on that challenge upon myself. And I kept switching in engineering. Here at the U of A, there's 15 different engineering majors that you can go into. And at first, so if you're not aware, San Miguel High School has a corporate program. So I started working my freshman year. And because of that, I was really interested in mining. I was really interested in chemistry. So worked for Freeport my junior and senior year. And I was like, okay, chemical engineering, that's what I'm going to do. I didn't know that it had nothing to do with chemistry. It was all physics, and I didn't like that at all. So I switched from chemical engineering to mining. But then I took a class. It was interesting. Didn't like the fact that I could possibly be living in a place where it was in a big city. I didn't really want that either. And then I was like, optical engineering, this is it. And no, I didn't like it either. So I kept switching, and I decided to stay with systems after doing an internship with Raytheon. So when I was here at the university, I've always been super involved, and I've always liked to join clubs just to get familiar and network. So I joined SHIP, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and I loved it. I fell in love with the club, with what they had to offer. So I became e-board here my sophomore year, and I was La Familia vice president, an event that is for the adults around the community. We teach them how to use technology. The event is actually happening in a few weeks, in 2 weeks from now. So I'm not in that e-board position anymore, but I'm still in e-board, and I'm still helping a lot. So I've been pretty busy with that. And this year, I'm also in e-board as Advancements of Latinx in Engineering. So PlayMiss. So it's a event where we cater to the high school community. We invite them to join us in one day. This year it will be virtual, February 20th. We will be having 200 students around the community. So I've been working a lot and putting a lot of time and effort into that event to get it working. We have different sponsors. We have different workshops, interactive workshops, where the students will be able to, get to know what engineering is about, and also get involved with, or not necessarily get involved with SHIP, but get to know who SHIP is and the other clubs that the College of Engineering has to offer. And then that is a picture from National Convention this past year in Phoenix. That was really fun. We call ourselves Familia. So we are a big familia when you are part of SHIP. And I wanted to share this picture right here on the bottom where it says model-based. That was when I attended back a conference in Kansas City. I got my first interview with Raytheon. And it's very important, I guess, to always wear your apparel from your university, because this is a funny story. When we arrived to Kansas City, I was sitting at the plane, like pretty in the beginning of the plane. So I got out and I was waiting for all of the other shippers to get out of the plane, and I was just kind of waiting there. I was wearing a U of A shirt, and this man had approached me, and he said if I was attending the SHIP convention, and I said yeah. And it was my first time. I was only a sophomore. I didn't know what else to say. I didn't know what I was going into. So I kind of just stayed there. And then he's like, oh, I work for Raytheon. Like, I'm here to recruit. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I kind of didn't bother. It didn't process until later when I was like, wait, he said he was a recruiter. I'm going to go talk to him. So I went back, and we were waiting for our luggage, and him and his wife were waiting there. And soon, a few days later, he at the airport, he actually gave me this flyer, which I kept because he told me, oh, come, come to our, they're like different, so convention has different like times where you can go and meet different companies. So I attended, and he saw me, he remembered my face, and he then introduced me to his boss at that time. And he's like, oh, I met her at the airport, she's from Tucson, goes to the U of A, and she knows about Raytheon. So from there, I got a call that same night, like from HR, saying if I wanted to get an interview with Raytheon. And it was great. I didn't know that networking was so important until I think I realized it that day at convention. So during convention, it's probably the best experience you can get. You walk up into the elevator and there's different, people from different companies, and you get to know them in a personal level as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. This is my 5th year actually in an undergrad. So I've taken my time to kind of enjoy my college career. I've had the opportunity to do 3 different study abroads, and they're probably the best thing that I could say that I've done here in college, aside of the stress of just engineering in general. My freshman year, that summer, I went to Paris. It was through a gen ed course. My second year, I went to Hawaii. It was for a global experiential learning. We got to go to places where typically tourists don't get to go, and it was through the university. Really cool. We got to meet people, learn about their culture, and about history in general. Really eye-opening experience. And then my third study abroad was in Southeast Asia. I got the opportunity to go to 5 different countries. It was Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and China. And it was amazing. It was during winter. So I sometimes it's hard for engineering students to kind of take a whole semester off, but there's definitely different opportunities that you can take. And like I mentioned, after convention, I got my very first internship with Raytheon when it was Raytheon. And I worked there my summer of 2018. I got recruited back as soon as I left. So I signed off for the summer of 2019 and then went back this past summer virtually for 2020. And I'm currently doing a co-op right now. It's been a really good experience. It is kind of hard to time manage all of my extracurriculars. As you can see, I'm in a dorm. I'm a resident assistant, so I work here at the dorms. So I have that, plus co-oping at Raytheon, plus being an e-board for SHIP, plus having a full-time workload in engineering courses. So it can be a lot, but I definitely enjoy it. And I'll be graduating this May. Finally, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to be a first-generation college student in systems engineering. My major is systems engineering, minoring in cybersecurity and Spanish. And I'll soon be a full-time employee for Raytheon Technologies. And like Alonso was mentioning, there's a lot of opportunities for engineers to go back to the community. And I definitely want to adopt a school. Challenger would be ideal, going back there. Or Gallego, I know that was my elementary. I know they have MESA there too. And yeah, I'm kind of doing some research right now to see if I can start my master's program pretty soon. So I guess those are still up in the air, but yeah, we're taking little steps.
Thank you. And one of the things you heard Caitlin say is that Raytheon does have, educational support for their employees who want to go back. So maybe you can take advantage of one of those. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. I really appreciate it. Manny, do we want to open it up for Q&A?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Ryan. I don't know, we might not even have any questions with how well they did, but yeah, if anybody has any questions, now is the time to propose those. You can either unmute yourself briefly to ask a question, or feel free to pop it in the chat and we can read it out for our presenters. It could be for the whole group, or if there's a particular person you want to ask a question of, you can do that as well. So we'll do that. I'll wait a few seconds. If we don't have any questions, we've got a few prepared questions we can ask as well. All right, so maybe people are thinking of questions. So we can start off with one. So you did share with us kind of your educational journeys. So one question I have, so this is just kind of a general one, but besides your careers, right, how has an education in a STEM or engineering background helped you in your life, or just prepared you to kind of take on challenges that you may be facing?
I hear that engineers are excellent problem solvers. Is that true? I'm not an engineer by trade.
I think for me, since I really haven't experienced the full like working full time, and I'm still kind of in school, one of my biggest struggles has been like time management. I'm still trying to figure out how to time manage. I know this is my last semester and it might sound super weird, but it is hard, and it's a learning it's like a learning process. Every semester you have a different schedule, and it's kind of, you need to adapt to it. But because of that, I think that I'm pretty good at adapting, or not being afraid of challenges or a failure. I think I've failed multiple times in my career to a point where it has benefited me. So for me, those have been like my biggest successes as well from my failures in school. And I'm still learning. It's a learning process. I know for now, senior design, which is if you pursue a career in engineering here at the U of A, you have to do senior design, and it's a whole different challenge that you're given, and you're treated as a real employee, as a real engineer, and yet you're still learning. So those are some of the challenges, I guess, that I've faced here in college. But in general, pursuing a STEM degree has opened a lot of doors for me, and I'm really thankful for that and appreciative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can say something. I liked what Nayla said about failing, because I think everyone fails, and you can't be afraid of failing, because that's just part of the learning process. And me personally, I feel like pursuing STEM has, given me, significant confidence, and, knowing that I can solve problems, and, learn from others, and do my own research, and, just keep grinding at it until I figure it out. And that applies to like so many things in life. And for me, when I bought my house, it was, I mean, it was built in 1950, and I mean, it was, so many things were outdated, so much painting needed to be done, and it was pretty intimidating. But I just kind of tackled one little project at a time. And yeah, so I think that was a great experience, and just STEM has really helped me gain that confidence to solve problems, and get after things. So yeah.
Thank you. Anton, did you want to add anything? No pressure. You don't have to, but just give you an opportunity.
I really don't have much to add. I mean, just the engineering method that we try and teach to students at the middle and high schools. I mean, that really can be applied to just about any problem. It doesn't have to be an engineering problem. Just that basic concept of figure out what the actual problem is, look at the options, and try and apply some kind of metric to what the best path forward is. I mean, it can be applied to many aspects of your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So this is another opportunity for anybody else on the call. If you have a question, to unmute yourself or pop it into the chat. So give you that chance right now. And of course, the staff members, right, might have questions as well. I know Corey always has lots of questions. I saw Corey on the line.
How did you
Manny out?
guess? Go ahead, Rudy.
Corey, did you want? Okay, so I'll throw one out there. So for our engineers on the call, I think sometimes when we have an opportunity to put together a student panel, or in this case, like an engineering STEM panel, that sometimes our middle school and high school students may think that each of you were perfect students and that everything came easy to you. And so I think sometimes having the opportunity to share maybe something that was a challenge for you and how you might work to kind of overcome that challenge, that it might open up the door of having students be able to see you and say like, oh, okay, then that's something that I can take on. And I've got similar challenges, but it doesn't mean that I can't be an engineer. Anybody want to go first?
Yeah, for me, definitely, like I said, I'm not ashamed to say this. I failed multiple courses in my career, and it was hard, because in high school, I had really good grades. When I realized that I was here, in college getting C's, D's, and F's, I realized, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I shouldn't pursue engineering. Maybe this is too challenging for me. But after talking to advisors and kind of having that network around you, and SHIP, and it was kind of SHIP what held me together, realizing that you're not the only one. It's not like this imposter syndrome. You realize that everybody else has, is struggling and asking for help. I think at least for engineers, some are, at least here, it's really funny because the advisors for freshmen say, like, some of the students will come thinking that they don't need help in nothing, and then they soon realize they need help. But it's so hard for them to ask for help, because they were like, well, I didn't need help, I was helping in high school, but now they are realizing like, wow, I do need help. So I feel like, failing was one of my biggest struggles, and realizing that, okay, I didn't pass this class, I'm going to retake it and I'm going to do better. Maybe I'm going to change the methods that I'm studying, or maybe I shouldn't cram the night before. Maybe I should kind of make a plan of study, and that really helps. And having groups of people that can kind of keep you accountable has been one of my one of the things that have really helped me to kind of pass those hard, challenging courses.
I can add, my own story of, coming from high school where everything did kind of come easy, and going to the U of A, and it was hard. It was, I wasn't getting A's anymore. I had a semester my junior year where, I wanted to graduate in 4 years. So I overloaded my schedule, way too many classes, ended up like failing two, getting a D in two, and bombing that semester really, and having to step back and kind of reassess and kind of, buckle down and go at it again. I think really the bottom line is you have to persevere. You have to keep on trying. Don't expect to get through without any challenges. You're gonna be challenged. It's just a matter of to keep going. I mean, it doesn't matter how long you take, just as long as you get there.
Yeah, and I would agree too. I'll say my first semester, it might have even been the first test I took in college. It was a calculus test, and I completely bombed it. Like I'd never failed so bad. And it was so disheartening, but I mean really I just realized that I needed help. I started going to office hours. I made a few friends in the class, and we did homework together. And I still didn't do great in the class, but yeah, definitely failure is part of the process for sure.
And it's definitely part of that engineering design process that we try to make sure that students are comfortable with. I think that's one of the best things that for our middle school and high school students, that even despite what their project is that sometimes we're going to experience that failure. And yet it's something that we can kind of lift ourselves up from. As was mentioned, there's a lot of people around us that can help us. We can ask questions. So thank you very much to each of you for sharing. Manny, I think I saw a question pop up in the chat, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, we had a couple of questions. One of them was kind of answered already. It came from Sheila Marquez. What classes do all engineering majors take at the U of A? I don't know if anybody want to touch on that. I know, I believe Nayleth shared some information about the 4-year plan. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the chat, feel free to see the link there. I think in general, right, there's definitely a lot of math and science that you'll usually see, right? Calculus, I think, is one of those required classes for engineering majors.
Yeah, Manny,
Physics.
can I
Go
add
for
on?
it.
One of the things that we like to encourage our high school students when we do outreach programs, whether it's through MESA or one of the others, is, always take that 4th year of math in high school. You may not think you need it down the road, but there is a lot of math and science in the engineering courses in college. And that way it just leaves the door open for you so that, you may think as a junior or sophomore in high school, you're not going to go into engineering. You're going to, I'm not interested in that. But I think Caitlin had the example of, she decided, I think you said junior or senior year, Caitlin, in high school, that you tried an engineering course and you decided to pursue it in college. And so we always encourage our students, just take that extra math and science course, because it'll just leave the door open for you. And it's always good to have that in your back pocket if you wanted to pursue it later. And then I'm going to jump in, and then I'm going to ask either Alonzo or one of our 3 engineers to answer Alexander's question. Alexander, the way I like to share with people about who Raytheon is, at least here in Tucson, and again, we're a global company. We have offices all over the world, but here in Tucson, because we have so many people here, we have 13,000 employees just here in Tucson at our office here. I like to call it a city within its city. We have our own fire department. We have every degree you could probably think of. I'm in communications. We have finance. We have quality. And then engineering. I think we have pretty much every discipline of engineering that is taught in colleges. There are certain recs or there's certain fields of engineering that we hire more of, just due to whatever the need is of the business. I know systems engineering is usually pretty heavy, mechanical engineering, but we always have some of those niche areas as well. And so I'll let one of our engineers speak a little more if you guys want to, or Alonzo, but I just like to describe it to people. We're our own little city in the city of Tucson because we're so big here and we have so many different areas to go and explore.
I know for me, like I said, I kept switching my major. I didn't know what I wanted to study. I was interested in everything, but it wasn't until that summer of when I first interned, where I worked in as a systems intern. Even though I was at that point doing optical engineering, I actually decided, okay, I'm gonna switch my major because I really like what they're doing. I really like what I'm learning. And I feel like this is a growing, they were doing model-based engineering. So I found that really interesting. Until this day, I don't know exactly what a systems engineer is. Like there's so many things that could happen and so many places that you can work. So I'm myself kind of still exploring those areas within the company.
I would add, my wife is a doctor, and so I got to know some of her colleagues, and one of them studied chemical engineering and decided she wanted to go into medicine, and there was another colleague who had an engineering career and decided later, I want to go back to school and become a doctor. So getting an engineering degree doesn't mean you're going to be an engineer forever if that's not what you want to do. It really is just a solid foundation for you to go somewhere else if that's where life takes you. I don't think you can really go wrong with an engineering degree. It opens up doors.
Yeah, and even with thank you for sharing that, Anton and Nyla. And I would just add that even the part of the question that intrigued me is, is there a specific engineer you should be to get into Raytheon? And the answer is no. That I think the spectrum, I guess, if I could categorize it that way, the wide variety of things you can be within an engineering field is so vast. Even at Raytheon, at a place like Raytheon, is so big that really you don't need to narrow your focus down to one specific thing, like missile engineering, I guess, if I could label it that way. I would say if you go into engineering, going into college, and if you're unsure, take some of the intro courses and find something that resonates with you, whether that's in mechanical, whether that's in electrical, chemical. And even within those fields, you can be a mechanical engineer and you can work on missile design. I mean, you can do thermal engineering, you can do aerospace, you can do, oh my gosh, there's just, I'm not even going to list them all. But there are so many things that you can specialize in, even within those fields, that I wouldn't worry so much about that. And then being able to find a career at a place like Raytheon. I'll say this: the biggest care about, I think, that we have is, did you get the problem-solving process and discipline in college? Did you actually get it? Can we hire you on to take on some tough problems that aren't laid out perfectly for you, but because you know how to solve problems because of all the exercises that you did and through the classes, your homeworks, the achievements you've accumulated in college? Do you show that you have that problem-solving prowess and skill that we really are looking for? I think that's the bigger, the more important thing, and that you have that passion as well. So I think in all these cases, probably one of the things that stuck out in these interviews, these very talented engineers that are presenting for you, is that problem-solving rigor and passion that probably came out. Again, just explore and don't narrow your focus going into college, and even through college, if you're still unsure, you can hire on to a place like Raytheon, work for a year or two, as you heard some of our folk have done here. And once you find out how this is my passion, this is the type of engineering I want to do, you go back and do your master's after that, or just specialize in that area.
One of the things I heard one of our interns say one time is the things you do at Raytheon are not things that you've learned in a textbook. We're creating innovation that will be used 10 years down the road, right? And so to Alonso's point, having those problem-solving skills, that collaboration, right? Working with other people, because I know when we're in school, a lot of what we do is individual. But when you come to Raytheon, you don't work a lot by yourselves. You may have daily tasks that you do by yourselves, but you're working in a team or a group. And so being able to collaboratively work with one another is big. And one of the great things about a large company like Raytheon is you could work at RMD here in Tucson. You could go over to Collins Aerospace in North Carolina. You could go to Australia or Canada. There's a lot of growth when you work for a large company, a global company, which can open a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, can I add something to that real quick? Yeah, I think that's why it's very important to join the clubs and attend national conferences and try to get an internship before, because you'll realize that it's totally the contrary. Whatever you're learning at your internship, you'll apply it to school, but not really the other way around. I know that I kind of, when I first learned about like agile methodologies, it was through the internship, and then I started taking courses and I was like, oh, I remember this. So it was really interesting. I thought I would need to know everything that I was learning in classes to be able to be a successful intern, but it was nothing like that. And the same thing, like asking for help is very important. And I think that's why I've learned all of the skills that I've learned have really been because of my internship more so.
Excellent, thank you. And then I also know a story of another U of A alum who actually works with IBM, who got their undergraduate degree in communications, and then again, through an internship, discovered that they liked software engineering and became a software engineer and is now one of the top software engineers at IBM, but their bachelor's degree wasn't in engineering. So even if you don't go that way to start, there's nothing that says you can't eventually get there if that's what you decide you want to do. Any other questions? We've got about 5 more minutes in our scheduled time. And of course, we want to give that opportunity to any of our folks that have joined us. If you have any questions.
Well, it's taken me a long time to get a question in here, Manny. So I'm going to do it. First off, I have to say, Nyleth, way to tell your story about networking, because I think that is such a very important story. You never know, wherever you are, the person sitting next to you might just be your future boss. So thank you for sharing that story. I think that was very powerful. So students on the call, definitely put yourself out there as much as you can. My question is for Anton. I noticed that you have one super cute young lady that sits on your lap every once in a while. And then you also mentioned that your wife is a physician. So my question is, it's fascinating because I'm the advisor of the Society of Women Engineers, and oftentimes we'll have questions for women that say, how do you balance this challenging job of engineering and having a family and having a life? And I'm noticing, Anton, that you have, the two of you must have a balance. And I would really be interested in knowing how you deal with family and obligations at work. And obviously, Caitlin and Nyleth, you can answer those questions as well. But I'm curious because you have a little one on your lap, and that can't be all that easy. So that's the question for you.
I mean, it's time management. We also are lucky in that we have family in town. That's, I mean, a big reason why we stayed in Tucson. Both of us are from Tucson and really haven't ventured far. So we get a lot of help from, her parents and our family. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's a team effort, right? And, she has days where she's got work priorities and I have to kind of take one for the team and vice versa. It's kind of it's a partnership and right, you just got to kind of juggle things and kind of somehow fall in line at the end of the day.
So you can do it, is what you're saying. You can
Yeah,
have a career like this and also balance a family and have a partnership and I heard the word support. You got a lot of support. So
we do have a lot of support, and I know, other families still make it happen somehow with, being in a different city from where they grew up. And honestly, that I don't know how they do it, but obviously they've figured it out. We have that extra help and we figured it out. So it's not, beyond the realm of possibility to, raise a family and have a career.
I think it's all about asking for help, whether you're a student with your coursework or you're raising kids and you need help. I know I have 2 little ones and I sometimes don't ask for help when I should, and then I get overwhelmed. So it's all about asking for help. While we have just a few more minutes, I don't want to take any other students' questions if they are interested, but maybe Caitlin and Anton, I know there's a jump from being in school and going to full-time work. Even if you do an internship, that helps you, I think, kind of navigate that shift in life. But any thoughts from you two? Because I know you two are officially full-time. Nyleth, we would ask you this in 4 or 5 months. But any thoughts on just because school and full-time work is quite different? Any thoughts?
Yeah. So there definitely is a transition from school to work, and one thing that I quickly realized is that school felt a lot more rushed, and at work you're usually focusing on one bigger task at a time, and you usually work with a lot of people around you, more senior people, and I I mean, I just ask tons of questions. I think that's really important to just kind of get get to know the people you work with. Ask a lot of questions, figure things out early, and that'll just make, you know, work life easier. Just figuring out how documents work, how processes work. Um, so yeah, I definitely say get to know your coworkers, make friends with your coworkers, and ask lots of questions.
I would say that the biggest jump from school to work is, at work tends to stay at work for the most part, whereas school, like, have a lot more freedom, but at the end of the day, you might be juggling classwork and homework and studying, kind of all week. I feel like with my full-time job, I go to work, I get the job done, and then home, and I have other responsibilities, but for the most part, my days at work.
Yeah, the separation between personal life and work life is very nice compared to being in school, for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we've got about a minute left. Is there any last minute questions? I think going back, I know Shalane, you shared something in the chat, and Alexander was asking about internships. And I think one of the things is remember what Nyleth was saying with the networking, right? If you're attending events where Raytheon might be there, approach people, talk to them. And if you do that, you start making connections, a lot of times just by being friendly and making a connection with the person, you never know what kind of opportunities that could open up, right? So when they're like, hey, I have this opportunity for someone, I remembered that person that I talked to, and then they sent me an email after we chatted at this event. I'm going to mention it to them and see if they're interested or invite them to attend. So sometimes it's hard, you're not always super comfortable approaching people you don't know, but attending those kinds of events and being willing just to engage a conversation, asking simple questions can make all the difference. So I'm sharing our final slide. Just thanking you all for attending and being here with us today. Again, if you have any questions or if you want to connect with any of these folks, you can email us at azmesa@email.arizona.edu, and we can reach out to them. And if you're curious to learning more about Raytheon, you can feel free and visit the website that we have there, and I can see if I can pop that into the chat. So before we go, any final questions or final words from our panelists?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something real quick. I shared the SHIP National Convention link in the chat. I know that SHIP National allows high school students to attend nationals at a lower cost. They're not necessarily going to get interviews, but just to kind of get their feet wet on to see what national convention is. So maybe I would recommend looking at that and how you guys can attend. And reach out to SHIP chapter UA. You can get my I put my email there, and I'll be, even if after I graduate, I know I'll be a big part of SHIP UA. So
I just wanted to thank everybody from Raytheon for being on this evening. Raytheon has made this commitment to the community and makes so many other commitments. And something that I think that just is important to kind of point out for our middle school students, for our high school students, and is always an important reminder to us as staff, and is just that it really isn't about kind of what we have, but what we are able to give back. And I think, we've been very grateful to the many ways that Raytheon seeks to give back to students through our MESA program. But you heard about their commitment, other commitments to the community as well, all very important things. And we hope that for the students that are on this call, the students that are impacted by the interactions with Raytheon Engineers, that you take that message of thinking about how do we give back, and it may not be in this moment. Some of you are middle school students and maybe saying to yourself, what do you mean giving back? But it may be that again in the future that you have an opportunity to be a part of a panel like this, and that just by sharing your experiences, by being vulnerable and opening up and saying, this is where I struggled, this is where I fell, where I failed, and yet I got up, that by sharing those stories, you could be inspiring and kind of helping other people and helping your community. So just a reminder that to all of us to think about how we can give back. And it doesn't have, you can give back in all sorts of different ways, but just thinking about those in our community and thinking about how do we give back. Empathy is always a good thing, and especially in this day and time and in future day and times too. Thank you, Raytheon, appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Rudy. Thanks everyone from Raytheon. Thanks to all those who joined us today. We really appreciate it. Keep your ears open for announcement for our next one. We're working to schedule our next panel. And of course, we'll hopefully offer more opportunities like this during our MESA Regional Design Day and MESA Day itself. So more to come. Thanks to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.